Have you ever had a moment where your heart stops because something you said as a joke suddenly becomes the most serious thing in your life? That's exactly what happened to me. If you've ever taken a risk that changed everything, hit that like button and subscribe to follow more stories that prove sometimes the biggest moments in life come from the smallest decisions. I never thought a birthday joke would change my entire life. But there I was, standing in front of Sarah, my boss of 3 years, watching her face transform from amusement to something much more complex as she said those 7 words, "What if I say yes, Alex?" The office around us seemed to freeze. Co-workers who had been enjoying birthday cake and casual Friday banter suddenly found their shoes incredibly interesting. The decorative balloons my team had hung earlier that morning swayed gently in the air conditioning, the only movement in an otherwise paralyzed room. I was just kidding, I stammered, feeling heat rush to my face. The champagne flute in my hand suddenly felt slippery. Sarah's eyes never left mine. "Were you, though?" That's when I realized something that had been buried deep inside me for years. I hadn't been joking at all. Let me back up. I'm Alex Chen, 32, Senior Marketing Strategist at Horizon Media. Sarah Williams had been my direct supervisor since I joined the company. She was brilliant, driven, and maintained a professional distance that I respected. She was also 5 years older than me, which in corporate hierarchy might as well have been 20. Our relationship had always been strictly professional, though we worked closely together on countless projects. Late nights finalizing pitches, early morning strategy sessions, business trips where we'd grab dinner and discuss everything from campaign metrics to our favorite books. I'd always admired her, but I'd buried any other feelings so deep I didn't recognize them myself. Until my birthday, when surrounded by colleagues and slightly buzzed on office champagne, I'd jokingly dropped to one knee, presented her with a ring-shaped paperclip, and asked, "Sarah Williams, will you marry me?" It was meant to be a silly moment, a callback to an inside joke about commitment to work projects. But her response changed everything. After the initial shock wore off and the office slowly returned to normal, Sarah pulled me aside. "My office, 5 minutes," she said quietly before walking away, her expression unreadable. Those were the longest 5 minutes of my life. I straightened my tie, checked my breath, and tried to formulate some explanation that wouldn't get me fired or reported to HR. When I entered her office, Sarah was standing by the window, silhouetted against the city skyline. She turned, and I was surprised to see vulnerability in her eyes, something I'd never witnessed before. "We need to talk about what just happened," she said. "I'm so sorry," I began. It was completely inappropriate, Anne. "Alex," she interrupted. "I've been your boss for 3 years. In that time, I've watched you grow from a talented but uncertain new hire into one of our most valuable team members. I've respected our professional boundaries every single day." She paused, taking a deep breath. Even when it was difficult. My heart pounded so loudly I was certain she could hear it. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying that I've had feelings for you for a long time. Feelings I've never acted on because of our professional relationship. And now you've made a joke that's forced both of us to confront something we've been dancing around." The revelation hit me like a physical force. All those late nights, the easy conversations, the way we could finish each other's sentences in meetings, it hadn't just been professional chemistry. "I didn't know," I said honestly. "I think I've felt the same way but never allowed myself to acknowledge it." Sarah nodded. "So what do we do now?" That conversation began the most complicated period of my life. Company policy didn't explicitly forbid relationships between managers and their reports, but it required disclosure and reassignment. Sarah and I agreed to take 2 weeks to think about what we wanted before making any decisions that would affect our careers. Those 2 weeks were torture. We maintained strict professionalism at work, but every glance carried new weight. I found myself replaying years of interactions, seeing them in a new light. Had I always felt this way? Had she? Meanwhile, my best friend Marcus thought the whole situation was hilarious. Only you would accidentally propose to your boss and end up in a real relationship dilemma, he laughed over beers. It's not funny, I insisted. This could change everything, our careers, our friendship, everything. Sometimes the best things in life come from the biggest risks, he said, suddenly serious. My parents met at work. 27 years and still going strong. At the end of 2 weeks, Sarah and I met at a quiet cafe far from the office. The tension between us was palpable as we ordered coffee and found a secluded corner table. I've been thinking about this constantly, she began. About what it would mean for both of us professionally. My heart sank. This sounded like the beginning of a letdown. I've spoken with HR, she continued. If we decide to pursue a relationship, you would be reassigned to Daniel's team. Your position and salary would remain the same, but I would no longer be your direct supervisor. You've already talked to HR? I was surprised by her thoroughness, though I shouldn't have been. I wanted to know our options before making any decisions, she explained. But Alex, this is bigger than just logistics. If this doesn't work out between us, things could get very uncomfortable. Are you willing to take that risk? The question hung between us. Was I willing to risk a career I loved for feelings I wasn't even sure I fully understood yet? I think, I said slowly, that I've spent 3 years admiring you as a boss and a mentor. But I've also spent 3 years getting to know you as a person, your integrity, your humor, your passion. And I think there's something real here that's worth exploring. Sarah's smile was tentative but genuine. I think so too. We agreed to take things slowly. I was reassigned to Daniel's team the following week, which came with its own challenges. Rumors spread through the office despite our attempts at discretion. Some colleagues were supportive, others skeptical. A few implied I was trying to sleep my way up the corporate ladder, which was both hurtful and ironic given that the relationship had actually complicated my career path. Our first official date was awkward in ways I hadn't anticipated. After years of professional dinners, suddenly we were on a romantic one. The conversation, usually so effortless between us, felt stilted. This is strange, isn't it? Sarah finally said, laughing nervously. Completely bizarre, I agreed, relieved she felt it too. Maybe we should stop trying so hard to make this a date and just be ourselves, she suggested. That broke the tension. We fell into our usual rhythm, discussing books, sharing stories from our childhoods, arguing good-naturedly about whether pineapple belongs on pizza. It absolutely does not, despite Sarah's insistence otherwise. By the end of the night, as we stood outside her apartment building, the awkwardness had dissolved into something new and exciting. I had a wonderful time, she said softly. Me too, I replied, hesitating before adding, can I kiss you goodnight? Her smile was answer enough. The following months weren't without challenges. Working in the same company meant maintaining professionalism during the day while exploring our relationship after hours. We had our first fight when a project I was working on with Daniel's team competed directly with one of Sarah's initiatives. We had to learn to separate our professional disagreements from our personal relationship. 6 months in, we faced our biggest test when Sarah was offered a promotion that would require relocation to the Chicago office. It came with significant advancement opportunities she'd been working toward for years. I don't know what to do, she admitted as we sat on my couch, the offer letter on the coffee table between us. This is everything I've worked for professionally, but now there's us, I finished. We spent weeks discussing options. Long distance? Would I consider transferring to Chicago too? Should she turn down the opportunity? In the end, Sarah made a counteroffer to the executive team. She would accept the promotion but requested to remain based in the New York office, with quarterly trips to Chicago. To our surprise, they agreed. The night she got the news, we celebrated at the same cafe where we'd had our first conversation about pursuing a relationship. I can't believe they accepted, she said, glowing with excitement. "I never would have thought to negotiate like that before." "Before what?" "Before you," she said simply. "You've taught me that sometimes there are creative solutions to seemingly impossible situations. Like turning a joke proposal into something real." 1 year after my birthday joke, I found myself planning something much more serious. With Marcus's help, I organized a private dinner at the rooftop restaurant where we'd had our third date, the night we both realized this wasn't just an experiment but something lasting. I was terrified. Despite everything we'd been through, despite knowing how we felt about each other, proposing for real felt monumental. The evening was perfect, sunset over the city skyline, Sarah stunning in a blue dress, champagne chilling in an ice bucket. When dessert arrived, the server placed a covered dish in front of Sarah. "What's this?" she asked, looking at me curiously. "Just a little birthday tradition," I said, my voice surprisingly steady despite my racing heart. She lifted the cover to find not dessert but a small velvet box. Her eyes widened as she looked from the box to me. I moved from my chair to one knee beside her. "Sarah Williams, 1 year ago I made a joke that changed my life. It forced me to confront feelings I'd been hiding from myself. This time, I'm not joking at all." I opened the box to reveal a diamond ring. "Will you marry me?" Tears filled her eyes as she smiled. "What if I say yes?" "Then you would make me the happiest person alive." "Yes," she said simply. "Yes, I will marry you, Alex." As I slipped the ring onto her finger, applause erupted around us from other diners. Sarah laughed through her tears, and I felt a joy so complete it was almost overwhelming. Later that night, as we walked hand in hand through the city, Sarah stopped suddenly. "Do you ever think about how different our lives would be if you hadn't made that joke? If I hadn't responded the way I did?" I considered this. "I think we would have found our way to each other eventually. Some things are just meant to be." That's surprisingly romantic coming from the person who once created a 30-slide presentation on why quarterly budget meetings should be shorter. What can I say? You've changed me. And she had. We both had changed each other, challenged each other, made each other better. What began as an impulsive joke had become the most authentic relationship of my life. Sometimes the biggest moments start with the smallest decisions. A joke. A response. A willingness to risk something comfortable for something potentially extraordinary. If there's one thing I've learned from all of this, it's that the most meaningful connections often come when we least expect them, sometimes hiding in plain sight. And sometimes, just sometimes, what begins as a joke can become the most serious, and beautiful, commitment of your life. If this story touched you or reminded you of your own unexpected moments that changed everything, please like this video and subscribe to the channel for more stories that explore how life's most meaningful paths often begin with the smallest steps. Share in the comments if you've ever had a moment that seemed small but changed everything. I read every comment and would love to hear your stories too.